Hello traders, hello gamblers, speculators, visitors, hello everyone. Today we're going to explore Crazy Trading Assistant. It's an indicator available on tradingview.com. You can also get a free trial on the crypto.dingue.com website. In the free trial section, you just need to enter your TradingView username and your email, and you will get access to the advanced package. This package includes alerts on daily, weekly, and monthly intervals. The simple version here is the same but without alerts. The premium version comes with backlisting, and the business version includes all alerts, backlisting, and risk management for position sizing. It's a very powerful indicator. The advanced version has almost all these features. These are the functionalities we will look at in detail today. This video will last 25 to 30 minutes, so I recommend getting some paper to take notes, a refreshment, and some snacks. This is not entertainment, it's educational. It's very important to understand how it works. Once you understand the functionality, it will help you optimize your results. It will allow you to have an indicator tailored to your strategies and trading style. The more you apply yourself and concentrate, the better it will be. This video can be very rewarding in the long term. If you watch it and apply the concepts for months and years, it can be something that pays off in the long run. So it's important to be serious when watching this kind of content and not just watch while doing other things and being distracted. Without further ado, let's get into it. Let's go. First thing to do if you're using the indicator for the first time is to add it to your chart. If a new version has been released, an update, that's also what you need to do. You need to add the indicator to your chart. You can keep the old version, which will always be there, but if you want the new features, you need to add the indicator again to your chart. Type Assistant Dingue, and you should see it under the community section here. For today, I will be using Assistant Dingue Advanced, which is the same version but hasn't been published yet. It's the new version that will be released soon. Then you will go into the settings as it says here and accept the terms and conditions, which you can read here. It simply states that these are not investment advice, so the risk is yours. After that, the indicator is added to your chart with the default settings, and there's nothing else to do. If you want to change the time frame, change the ticker, for example, we're on Bitcoin with daily candles. Each candle represents 1 day. If I switch to weekly candles, the indicator adjusts automatically. If I switch to monthly candles, the indicator will adjust automatically. And if I change to Ethereum or other assets, it will be the same. If the following error appears, a small red circle will say calculation timeout. It's TradingView that sets a 60-second limit for the indicator to display. If it takes too long, you don't need to delete it and add a new one as it suggests. You can change the time frame or switch charts. The goal is to reload the indicator. You can also simply go into the settings and change any setting. This will reload the indicator, and it should work at that point. Each indicator has this structure. At the top, there are conditions that allow you to adjust the signals. Then there are the settings for the indicator itself, the length, the moving average, settings that you can adjust. The filter section is for further optimizing the signals, where you can remove noise, repetitive signals or signals at the end of a movement that still tell you to go long. You want to avoid these signals, and you can do that in the filters section. The 16 indicators have almost the same conditions: rising, rising safe, cross, cross safe, and combine. Rising is simple. We go long when the indicator is rising, and we go short when the indicator is falling. Rising safe means we go long when the indicator rises for 2 consecutive candles, and we go short when it falls for 2 consecutive candles. And when I say 2 candles, I mean the indicator over 2 candles. So if it's the RSI, it will be the RSI over 2 candles and not the candles themselves. Cross, Well, it's not when the indicator crosses per se, because it would be practically impossible to have 16 indicators crossing at the same time. So once it's above the other indicator, that's when we want to go long, and when it's below, that's when we want to go short. Cross safe, at that point, we want the cross to be more than 50% of the line itself. So if we just have a small bump like the example here, it's not valid. Same thing in reverse. When we are short, the line must be crossed more than halfway. Finally, combine will combine the two conditions of rising and crossing. So it will be once the line is above, but also that the line, the second signal, is rising. We see here I have colored in yellow. The moment the line crossed, let's say the RSI crossed above the RSI2, at that moment the RSI2 was still going down, so the signal was not valid. Once it started to rise and the RSI1 was above, so the combine is this rule and the reverse for going short. So once we've chosen our condition, we will then adjust the sensitivity of the indicator. Fast, normal, or slow, there are three options. It's simply about using either indicator 1, 2, or a combination of both. So fast will be RSI 1, normal RSI 2. Slow is a bit of a combination of both, RSI 1 and 2. Note that each indicator has an auto set. Auto set, what does that mean? It means that the settings, the values of the indicator itself here, 14, 2, 55, and 2, have been directly coded into the system. If I want to change these values manually, I need to uncheck Auto Set to adjust the settings. The 16 indicators are divided into two categories. There are oscillators like the RSI and MACD. These oscillators are often displayed in a small window at the bottom and typically oscillate between one value and another. These oscillators are in a separate panel and can't easily be added to our chart because their values are not related to the price. They often range between 0 and 100. However, if we scroll down past moving average like here, you can click. There are three that can be added to your chart. We see that the moving averages have been added to our chart. Remember, as I mentioned, you need to uncheck auto settings if you want to change the manual values here. 13, 50, and 200 are not necessarily the values you see on the chart. So let's uncheck this and you'll see what I mean. You can see it changed a bit. If we click on it, you can see the difference. It was like this automatically. But if we manually set it to 13, 50, and 200, you can see those values displayed. We can remove the moving averages. Next, it's the same with Bollinger Bands. We can add two to our chart. These are the Bollinger Bands. Then there's the VWAP. You can see the two VWAPs added to the chart. Next, add our average true range. One thing I wanted to mention, if you want to change the visual aspect, like the lines and such, you can always go to Style. As we see here, I've added adder to the chart, adder 1 and 2 here, and you can see they are small dots. So I can simply change it to a line if I prefer a line. If you want even thicker lines, you can do that too. Parabolic SAR. We see the parabolic SAR, which is a bit less linear than the average true range. We also see that use close is checked here. What this means is that it will use the candles close instead of the high and low, so it won't use the wicks for calculation. It will use the candles close. Often, indicators that are support lines or similar can use the option to either use the close or the wick of the candle. Next, there's the famous Ikimoku. So here is the Ikimoku, if you just want the lines and don't want the filling. The regression, linear regression. The line and the channel, you can put both to show you. Here we see the regression line and the channel being set up. Then point of control 1 and 2, we can also add the price of the line. Then there are the historical points of control, which is the H. As usual, everything is well explained in the tooltips. If you don't know what a box does, it will explain it to you. We see the old points of control, which can often be areas of interest such as reversals, targets, stops. The point of control is a tool that is widely used in the trading world. Next, we have the pivots. You can choose the type of pivot here, whether it's standard, classic, or traditional. Similarly, there are historical pivots that can be added to all past pivots. then KNN first support and resistance, second support and resistance. Again, you can also add the prices for each zone. Order blocks. Here you can choose the number of order blocks. Currently, there are 2x bull and 2x bear. We see the 2 here and the 2 here. The support and resistance zone is displayed by default. If you want to remove it, uncheck plot zone. If you want to have the prices in each zone, you will check it. And then support and resistance. If you want to have a specific support and resistance zone, you can check and add the number here, which will be one of the zones represented on the chart. Finally, at the very bottom, there are all the alerts. You can uncheck the alerts if you don't want a particular alert. So if you only want long alerts, you will uncheck the short alerts. Automatically, it will give you an automatic message. If you want to have your own message, you will uncheck automatic and then copy, paste, or write your own message here. If you want to trade with bots, or if you have alerts for your groups, whatever the case may be, this is where you can write your custom message. If you want an automatic message, then leave it here. One thing to know, depending on your package. For the Crazy Trading Assistant Advanced, the alerts will work for candles that are daily, 1 day and larger. Daily 3D, weekly W, monthly M, but will not work for intraday candles. Another thing to know about alerts is that the alert here at the bottom is only the settings for the indicator, but to add an alert, you still need to go to the Trading View Alert section on the chart where you want the alert. So the alert won't be set on all charts by default. You need to add it to the specific place you want. So if you want an alert on Bitcoin 1D, you set the alert on Bitcoin 1D. If you want one on Bitcoin 1 week, then you go to the weekly candles and set the alert there. So next you will choose Ta Advanced. Then for the condition here, you will select any alert function, which is what you checked in the indicator itself. All for long, short, target, or stop. Whatever you have checked will be used. In the notification section here, you will decide where you want to be notified for the alert. Do you want to be notified in the TradingView app, receive an email, or a webhook for your bots? These options are available. Once you do that, you will click Create, and then you will be able to see all your alerts in the Alert section at the top here. You can change or modify your alerts there. To explain the Safe Global, we want to align our lower chart with the direction of the upper chart. While the upper chart is long, for example, here on a weekly 1W basis, we see that the signal was long starting from September 16th, from the week of September 16th. So that means if we want to follow this trend, we don't necessarily want to go short on the 1D. If we select the chart at the top to align, so Bitcoin, on weekly candles instead of daily candles, then I'll add the background so you can see. The entire long section we see here will be green at the bottom. At that point, all the short signals, we see the entire long section from that moment on. We are long, the short signals will turn into stops. What you can also do is use the reverse button if, on the contrary, you want to go the other way. For example, if you want US, you will check reverse at that moment. If I put it at the top, US, for example, we see that when US is short, then the indicator will go long. It is green at the bottom. Once again, we align in the opposite direction of this trend, but it is a major trend, so we want to go with a trend. At that moment, all the signals that were against this trend will turn into stops. Safe signal works similarly, but instead of aligning with a specific chart and time frame, we align with an indicator. For example, we can select the 200 moving average, and we will always orient in that direction. Here we see when the moving average was positive, we are in a green section, and conversely, when we are in the red section, we see that we won't want to go long. The longs will turn into stops. In the Safe Filter section, this is where we will find the option to turn off volume. So if you have a chart that doesn't have volume, for example, it will show you a small error message and tell you to turn this option on, because otherwise there are indicators below that use volume, like volume, and those indicators will create errors or signals that won't be valid if you don't check this option. If you're trading the stock market like on the New York Stock Exchange or something similar, and the chart has after before hours, you can simply check this option, and it will trade only when the market is open and close your position at the end of the day. Reverse strategy is if you have a strategy where everything seems to be reversed. You're always going long at the top and short at the support. If you check this, it will reverse all the signals, and your strategy will be perfect. Exit only, this option is very useful when you want to have, for example, a risk reward where you absolutely want to exit on a target or a stop. So if we don't want, for example, to be in a long position that gets exited by a short signal, we will absolutely need to hit a target or a stop. It will only exit the position if we hit a target or a stop. It will never reverse the position with an opposite signal. However, you must make sure to have selected a stop or a target, because otherwise you will never exit the position. So once again, it's explained in detail here, but I wanted to mention it because if you choose this option without a stop and target, you will find something that doesn't work. Manual override, if you only want longs or shorts and you don't want opposite signals, you will select here. Safe oscillator, there are two. You can select indicators that are lower in the settings. If those indicators are too extended, for example, the RSI reaching 99, you might not want to go long at that moment, so you want to filter out indicators that are perhaps too extreme. This is when you can do it, and you can select two from the list. Then cool down. This is the number of candles you want to wait before entering a new position. If there's a long and the next candle is a short, do you want to take it or do you want to wait for more candles? This is where you can choose the number of candles. If you also want to use targets and stop losses in these calculations, you will check the box here. Count will count the number of signals we have between each long short, and it won't enter a position if the number of previous signals was higher. When I talk about the number of signals, we visually add the signals here. You will see it's all the possible signals. For example, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shorts, and we only had one long here. We probably wouldn't have taken that one with the option checked. It doesn't mean it's always right again, but when the trend is really strong in one direction and there's just one signal showing, it will sometimes help you remove false signals. Direction, this is very simple. Sometimes there are signals that will go long on a red candle or short on a green candle. If we don't want that to happen, we'll check this. Previous is the same, but for the previous candle, we might not want to go long if the previous candle was red, or conversely, if the previous candle was green, we might not want to sell. Trends, we want the signals to follow a trend. So we want the long positions to always be higher. Like for example, here there's a long, the long is higher, that's good. Is the next long higher? Yes, that's good. The same goes for shorts. The short here is lower, this one here is valid. However, this one is higher, it wouldn't have been good. We want the signals to be in the same trend, so you will check this option for that. Only one is useful if you have stops or targets. For a block of signals like we see here, there are several long. It will enter only once, even if there are multiple signals. If you have exited a position, it will wait for an opposite signal before going long again. It won't re-enter a position within the same signal block. Finally, too big will filter out candles that are too large. Sometimes there are very large candles, and if you buy at the close of that candle, your risk will be too high because you're really far from the price. At that point, it will filter out those candles. Target and stop loss. These two sections are practically identical. We'll go over them together. Minimum profit, minimum stop. If you don't want profits or stops that are too small, you will set a minimum value. Especially when using oscillators, sometimes there can even be negative profits. We can't let that happen, which is why it's set to 0. But if we want to cover costs or things like that, sometimes we can set a minimum profit of 1%. Fixed target, fixed stop. It's a fixed stop. If you want a fixed stop of 10%, 3%, whatever, you will set it here. Same for the targets. Indicator target 1 and 2, stop 1 and 2. It's the same thing. You can use an indicator from the list below. You can use one of these indicators as a target or stop, actually 2 of these indicators. To do this, you need to check them, then choose from the list. It's the same with the oscillators below. The RSI stochastic, you can use these as a target or stop. It's up to you to check them at that moment. Here it doesn't say anything. If you don't know what it is, you simply go here, For Bollinger Bands, you enter the length, the deviation, then check it, and it will create Bollinger Band targets for you. Just below here, there's the adder stop, which we don't have in the targets, but it's the same principle. Check it, write the deviation and the length. Then we have anchored target and anchored stop. At the moment of the signal entry, it will set a VWAP. It will be anchored from that moment, and it will be either your target or your stop. When we talk about the target, it will be the bands of the VWAP, so each VWAP also has bands. Target trailing stop. This option can be very useful if sometimes you want a target, but you don't necessarily want to exit the position because the price might continue. You will set a stop at that moment. If your target is hit, a stop will be added based on the percentage, like here at 2. Then it is the stop that will take you out of the position, not the target. Risk reward target. This will add a target based on the stop you select below. For it to work, you need to select a stop, but not an oscillator stop. It must be a precise stop with a value on the chart. Calculating the distance between the price and that stop will set a target and ratio. Finally, at the bottom, there are the stop and target options. The target type will determine the stop's behavior over time. Will the stop follow the price, stay fixed, or evolve? If you choose to evolve and select a Bollinger Band, you'll see that the target itself will change. Sometimes it moves away, sometimes it gets closer. Here we see it getting closer. It was moving away initially. And here we see that the target has been hit. However, if I set it to fixed, we will see that once it enters, it will no longer change value. You can see it becomes fixed, the stop won't change. If you select trail away, it will move away from the price, always getting further and never getting closer. Conversely, if you choose trail closer, it will always move closer to the price instead of moving away. At the bottom, there's the further option. If you select multiple targets, you can decide which one will be hit first. Is it the one that's furthest away or the closest? You can choose the nearest target or the furthest stop. It's up to you. If you don't want to have the stops or targets on your chart, you can remove them here. If you don't want to know when they are hit, you can remove the targets here. If you want to use, as we discussed earlier, the close with the indicators, so the closing of the candle or the high of the candle for the target. For example, at this point, the target was here, but we exited at the close at this point at 90,000. If we change the close, we will see that the price we will exit at that moment at 84,000. We see here the exit price at 84,650 for a profit of 20,000. If we use the candle close, we close at 80,860 for a 41% profit. Moreover, if you hover your mouse over the panel, you'll see the position, entry point, and date. Preset sensitivity will allow you to adjust the conditions and sensitivity of the 16 indicators automatically. If you don't want to start changing each indicator, you might prefer settings that are a bit more automatic. The conditions are disabled if you select this. All the settings will be automated, which can simplify the task. Of course, it's not always optimal, but it can be a quick way to change the signals. An important point, even if you don't use the indicator, if it's set to off, you can still use these filters. The filters will work even if the indicator itself and its conditions are not used. Once we understand the global signal, we need to understand that the conditions of this global signal are controlled by the section in each indicator. You see there is local, local long short, global, global long short, long or short. So at this point we can decide the condition and sensitivity we've chosen and where to apply it. Do we apply it everywhere? We can apply it only to the local signal, not to the global signal, or only to long or short. We can really decide where to apply our signal. This gives us unparalleled flexibility. It's truly something very powerful, and something we can maneuver according to our strategy in an optimal way. As we just saw, there are many options in the Crazy Trading Assistant. There will be more videos to follow, detailing each section. There will be videos explaining how to optimize your strategies according to your trading style. I also want to show you that on the website there are free charts. You can go to the chart section. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below and I'll be happy to respond. If you've made it this far and haven't clicked like or follow yet, what are you waiting for? It's free. See you next time. Good luck with trading.